Hey, Freedom Fighters, welcome to another weekly episode here at REI Freedom Podcast. We have two great guests, two great friends of me and Shelly's personally, people that I've known for quite a while. We used to actually coach youth sports together. We've been around a long time. And they're going to share their journey into real estate today. I think you guys are going to find it quite inspiring, what they've been able to achieve and real world stuff here today. So without further taking any longer, like I do with my long-winded self, we're going to introduce John and Lisa Tarabokia. Welcome to the show today.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks
for having us.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. So you guys are students of ours, which is awesome. But before you became students in our program, we were obviously friends for a long time. You know, our kids kind of grew up together. We coached a lot of sports together, John and I. Known each other, probably about, 12, 13 years now, I think.
Yep.
Crazy. So I'd really like to share with the audience your story, John, because of, what made you come into real estate. So if you could kind of share your background of everything and then share why you came into real estate, that'd be awesome.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's really awesome to be here with you. And I remember listening to these podcasts and hearing people's stories, and always thinking to myself, what's going to be our story? What's our journey? So it's really a pleasure to be able to tell it today. So I have over almost 30 years of experience in healthcare management, and Lisa has been in healthcare over 30 years as well. And so, all along that time frame, we've always been interested in real estate. But like many people, we were paralyzed by the fear of the unknown, right? We had no idea what to do, how to do it. It always seemed like you got to have a lot of money to get into it. We didn't have a lot of money, disposable income to do it. So it was always this dream of, we want to own these properties. We want to do something in real estate. We envied the people like yourself who were doing it. And never really could get off our butts and do something about it. But sometimes life kicks you enough and makes you really think about the fact that you gotta have some action. So, after a very, very long time in healthcare, I was with a semi-startup company, and in 2023 we went through three really, really large layoffs. And I was part of the unfortunate task of picking people for those layoffs for the first two. So,
Yikes.
You play the sticky note game, which is an awful game if anybody's ever done it, where you put people's names on a board and you move them around and figure out who's going to stay and who's going to go. And you're gutted, you're nauseous, people, and it's just it's a terrible process to go through, and it's something, if you're in leadership, you get thrust upon and have to do it. But unfortunately, the third round of this company last year, I was on the list, not knowing. I was partaking in the sticky note game, not knowing that my leaders had me on a list as well. So I got the unenviable call last summer that it's time for you to go on. And that was a big hit for me. I'd never been laid off in my life. I know you tell the story all the time about your journey and that process. And it always is one that, you really feel, but until it happens to you, you don't really understand. Right. Thankfully, you and I stayed in touch, and I had been keeping tabs on your journey. And well before this happened, if you recall, I remember calling you up and saying, hey, we're interested. I don't like where this is going. I don't want to wait till someone nudges me out the door. I want to do something about it. You gave us a bunch of things to think about. We did them, came back to you, went back and forth, and joined your coaching program and all of that, and got moving. So when I got laid off, it was one of those things where it allowed me to really accelerate what we were trying to do as far as getting involved in real estate. I spent half my time looking for a job because I still need a W-2. And I spent the other half of the time starting to grow the business. And Lisa works part-time, but it's actually more than part-time these days. And so when she wasn't working, she was immersed with me as well, really trying to understand and build this business. And it's challenging to build something from scratch. But with your coaching and mentorship, it's certainly been helpful. So it really pushed us forward. It accelerated our journey. I mean, we're in our 50s, so we're late starters. We're not spring chickens. We wish we would have started this 20 years ago, but we
Don't
didn't.
we all?
Um, and I know it's a long term play, but we don't necessarily have long term either. So we're trying to accelerate the best of our ability to be able to retire and build our future. So, we went through last fall with a lot of uncertainty, tightening up our finances, which is always challenging. Out of a job, starting a new business, marketing expenses coming out, no money coming in. Really, really challenging situation. We have two kids in college, just like you, expensive as well. But sometimes you just have to do it. You have to take that leap, and so that's what we did. And we didn't really see any results in the beginning. I mean, I think the results were just we got calls back, or we we got some interest, or we talked to some people, but we didn't really have anything that we closed, nothing that we did. Which is discouraging. I think after you go months and months and months without anything happening, and you're certainly stressed about money, it's certainly discouraging. But you always say it, and your voice resonates in my head whenever I feel like I'm ready to give up, which is that you never give up, right? And I was never a quitter anyway. But you got to push through, you got to persevere, you got to look for the positives, and we did that, and we got our first deal in January, and the rest is history. I mean, this year we have had a great year so far. And closed on a bunch of wholesales. We've got a couple of flips in the process here. We've got a rental property now, and we're looking at our whiteboard and really pushing ourselves to try to exceed all of our goals. One of which was to, I know you're going to laugh, but was to exceed your first year's target there that you gave me. You said, this is what we did. And I said, I just want to get $1 over. So Jeremy's coaching helps me out. So that's where we are right now.
Well, I love it. And I appreciate you sharing that story for our listeners. Now, being in your 50s and working your career on a W-2, and you've done a great job, tremendous job, really working up the corporate ladder, and, being in a position to put out sticky notes, it sounds terrible. I can't even imagine the stress that you guys must have been under just to do that, right? And, because these are people and you work with and care about, and then you have to do that. And then, you get two kids, one already in college, the other one going into college, because our sons are the same class. Yep. And then all of a sudden you get the call. And it's like, shit, what do I do now, right? I mean, like, right. Wow, right? And people don't understand, like, when you're at your position, you've had that so much success. Yeah, there's jobs out there, but you can't take jobs pennies on the dollars, right? You're used to a certain lifestyle, a certain amount of income, because you've built your life around that. And taking anything less than that's really tough. And you guys jumping into real estate was, risky and a gamble and scary, especially you didn't have anything. And like you said, you were trying to find a W-2, but for a long time you weren't finding anything. And each month goes by, and this business, as far as wholesaling goes, is painfully slow in the beginning. It takes a few months to get it going. Yep. And even when you get your first deal or two in the pipeline that close right away, a lot of times it's not, life-changing money. Sometimes you get lucky and you hit some good ones, but for the most part, it's just money that pays back your initial marketing spend. So here you guys are, a handful of months in, no money coming in at all. I mean, and you kept pushing forward. I mean, that's pretty scary, especially through the holidays and everything else.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, to add to the timing, I work in healthcare and had already kind of been, since COVID, thinking this is probably not going to be a long-term thing until I can retire. I'm in my 50s. It's becoming just so much more demanding than it ever was, physically, mentally, emotionally, and was kind of looking for a change from that perspective as well. And then I had a health scare in the middle of all this at the end of last summer. And so I was unable to work because this is not something I can do remotely. You have to be in person when you're doing healthcare. So I was home for quite a while, healing, and therefore had no income from my end either. And so it was kind of a perfect storm,
Yeah.
maybe in a bad way, but I think we used that time and used that opportunity, I think, to kind of turn our brains off of the way we were doing things before and kind of rethink our future.
Lisa,
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a great point. Obviously, when it rains, it pours, right?
Absolutely.
Unfortunately. But, it's from my experience, when you hit those rock bottom lows, those like life changing rock bottom lows that you're so scared about, just the things that truly matter in life, right? Which you guys are then going through that, right? Health concerns, true financial concerns, like what is going to happen, really puts things into perspective of what's truly important. And now I think obviously some of your ambitions have changed, right? It's no more. I know, John, you're back to working at W-2, but
Yep.
it's really a means to an end because you still want to build the real estate business because now you guys are finding over this experience. And forgive me if I'm putting words into your mouth, but some of your perspectives have changed and some of your priorities have changed, and maybe time is more important at this point. And having that freedom to spend time doing the things that you guys want to do together, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think.
Absolutely. We've always been that couple that has wanted to spend our time together. We've always looked forward to having a little more freedom with our time and don't want to wait till we're 80 to have to do it.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so even though we are in our 50s, it's still, we have plenty of time ahead of
Yeah,
us.
we're only halfway through our lives, man. We
Yeah,
still got another
exactly.
50 to go.
For
Yeah.
sure.
I think the big thing, Jeremy, that I wish I knew why as humans we all wait to really hit rock bottom to realize this, but I think what really drives us on a daily basis is that we never want to be in that situation again. I never want to feel that way again, right? It's okay to have a W-2 and it's great, but you're expendable on any day, any time. And things happen in the market and COVID hits, who saw that coming, right? And so when things like that happen, businesses have to make tough decisions, and that is part of it. But what we don't want to do is be in a situation where if you do have a health scare and you need to rest, or you do have a situation where your W-2 is iffy at best, or you lose it, that you're not in a situation where your stress level goes up so much that you're going to lose everything you've built your whole life for, right? I mean, I think that scared, how scared we were about the potential of losing our house and our retirement funds and cashing all that stuff in, which we didn't get to, thankfully, but it was all there. It was a lot of sleepless nights.
Sure.
And so I think, for us, building this business is really about that security as well, that backdrop there that says, you said it best, we now have skills that we could always use. We're always going to be able to generate money and income because of the skills we are building and continue to build. And that's an amazing thing to have, which we didn't have before. And we still are building it.
Yeah. And I remember us talking initially, you were really looking at real estate as like a plan B. And, although you guys were learning about it and trying to understand it, it didn't become urgent until it became a plan A, right?
Yep.
And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. It's so easy to be distracted by everything else in life to really work on plan B. So when your regular life falls apart, plan B sitting there, that just isn't really normal for most people. So let's talk about you guys into real estate. Obviously, we just talked about you learning this skill, right? So when did you join our coaching program? Was it September, October last year? Do you remember?
I think it was the end of September, beginning of October.
So around October, you started our coaching program. You got your first deal in January. So October, November, December, about 4 months. You guys got your first deal. Painfully slow to get going. Obviously, probably felt a lot slower for you guys during everything that was going on. But talk about like what you think about real estate now as somebody who has almost a year of experience as we're recording this podcast. From when you started, like, I always say it's a simple business, but it's not easy, but there's probably a lot of stuff you didn't know that you learned along the way. So if you could just kind of tell us like what you've learned as somebody who's been in this business now for a year.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We've talked about this a lot lately, but we don't most of us don't appreciate how much goes into a business running until you're actually trying to do it yourself and
Yeah.
build it from scratch, right? I mean, we walk into a W-2 and everything's kind of moving along and you're in your little area and you don't see all of the stuff that happens behind the scenes, but all of a sudden you build it and there's a lot of pieces to it. Real estate has, just like any other business, a lot of areas. And, let's say you get really good at acquisitions and then you realize, well, wait a minute, I'm great at acquisitions, but I stink at dispositions. I have no idea what's going on there. I don't know where to start. Now we got these properties and I don't know what to do. So it's, I think as we look at it, it is a constant learning process. That is one thing I would say. And, we are far from where we want to be, and we're far from experts in this business. And we probably never will feel like we're experts, which is probably a good thing. You always want to be constantly learning. But I think that when you look at it, if I were to break it down into something really simple, it is an absolute relationship business, which is what we love about it. Being able to talk to people and help them with their problems really makes you feel good about it. And I can't tell you how many times I've gone and met with people and we sit down with them, we talk to them, we get to know them, and then we look at them and say, we are not your best bet. Your best thing is to sell on the MLS because you're going to make the most money, and that's where you should be.
Yeah.
We're happy to help you and work with you, but this is better for you. And we have been able to sleep really well at night, knowing that we're helping people and treating them with respect and trying to help them through their situations, because there's plenty of people who need our help. And so it's not, you can't force a deal, you can't make a deal. And if you try to take advantage of someone that doesn't know any better, it's going to come back to bite you, and you don't want to do that. To me, I liken that to the sticky note game, right? How is that any better than taking advantage of someone is just like trying to, get rid of somebody, right? That's really not what you want to do. So for us, first and foremost, it's a relationship thing. And it is, we got into healthcare years ago because we like to take care of people.
Sure.
And so that really carries over well in this business. You need to do right by people, and it will come back to you. And we've seen that time and time again.
And there are a lot of people out there that need help. There are a lot of people out there that are in situations that they don't have any answers to, and don't know what their options even are. And I think that's one part that we like. And I know John in particular, and me as well, like when we go and meet with someone, even if we're not the direction they're going to go, even if we're not the people that they're going to use to sell their property, we like to leave that meeting knowing that we've given them some bit of information or some options that they didn't know before. Right. So that we feel like we brought something to them that they can use to go forward and find their best solution to their problems, even if it's not us.
Yeah, I agree. And well said by both of you guys, right? There's a conveyor belt of people who need our help all the time. There's a small group of people that need it, but that is a lot of them that just continuously need our help, and they don't know how to find us, right? So it's our job to go market to them and introduce ourselves. And a lot of times, at least in my experience, they're like, thank you for texting us. Thank you for calling us. Thank you for your mail piece. You guys like changed our lives, right? And being able to make money doing that's pretty freaking awesome for sure.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So you guys obviously, found out that being business owners is really hard. There's still so much to do, so much to learn. You love the fact that you guys are out there helping. Now that you guys are coming up on your first year, what does that first year look like? Like, how many deals did you guys end up doing? I know you got a flip under progress. We just partnered up on a multifamily burr that we're going to start on, which is really exciting at the end of the first year. So what did that first year look like? Good, bad? Like, what did you guys get for deals and all that?
Yeah. Well, I think much like your story, right? As you mentioned, in the midst of all the stuff we talked about, we did our first deal in January and we made $6,000, which was super exciting, because when you have that check in your hand, you say, this works. Yeah. That's really what it is. Doesn't matter if it was $1. It's like, this works, right? This is amazing. We did this. It didn't really help our financial picture at all. It helped us keep our marketing going without taking more out of our own, our own money that was depleting quickly. But it really got us moving. we set up, and it's all about continuously building your funnel like any sales role, right? So we filled our funnel and wound up closing, I think, 4 deals in April. So it was like we saw these coming, and it just, the timing wise, just made it all happen at once. So we went from 1 deal to 5 deals in like the snap of a finger. I think one went to the beginning of May, but it was in the same period. Um, and then we've had, a little bit of a lull again, beginning of the summer time. And then we got a bunch of deals under contract as well. So we actually have 2 that we're looking to potentially flip right now. We have the one with you, and then we just got another one that you and I can talk about another time. But I'm trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. It could be a good flip. It might be a wholesale. It's not a wholesale, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But it's a good opportunity. So things are continuing to move along. I would say we're at that place where we got 10 done, 10 under agreement or closed so far this year, which is great. We set
Amazing.
a goal for 12.
Yeah.
So, that was basically one a month is what we set to ourselves. And we're on track for achieving that. And again, we set some lofty goals as far as owning some rentals and doing flips. And I think we'll hit the flip mark. We did, I think, 2. We said we were going to try to start this year. I think we might exceed that, or at least get them started. I don't know that we'll finish them because we're at the end of the year. But and then it's really starting to learn from you on trying to get some more rentals. I mean, that's where we really are trying to get to. We've got a couple of opportunities in front of us, working on some seller financing options maybe. But it's just a matter of, do you get the right, are you at the right time? Do you get the right people? Are you solving the right problem? And then you'll get those deals. And so it is a wave kind of business, right? They come, in batches, and then there's a little quiet and come in batches. It's just about timing.
Yeah, and the first year is the worst, right? So I usually tell new people it's going to take you 3 to 4 months to get your first deal. Then you may get a few more that sprinkle in that first 6 months, but as the year goes on, you start to get more and more momentum. But that first year is definitely up and down, and up here in the Northeast, where we're wrapping up our 8th year, we still have ups and downs, right? In the winter, it gets really dead for like a short period of time, and in the summer, it gets really dead for a short period of time. Sure. But finding consistency and consistent deal flow is truly a challenge in this industry as a whole. But as you get better and your marketing gets better and your database grows deeper and stronger, right, you'll have the ability to close a lot more of those deals that will allow for less, ups and downs as far as the deal flows go. So awesome. All right. So 3 questions left. What's your plan? So the plan from here going forward is just continuing to get better and buy more rentals. Is that the plan?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the one thing we have really learned is that you can't, as much as you want to get really good at something before you move on, you also can't go into it with only one option, because you never know what you're going to run into. So our plan, I actually tell all of the people we talk to on the phone, they ask, what do you guys do? What are you trying to accomplish here? And I say, well, ultimately, we want to build a rental portfolio. That is our goal. But as you can imagine, every house we run into doesn't fit that profile. And so we have to do something else with it depending on what we find. So I think, our goal is to do that. We are interested in flips. I have a construction background, and my father owned his own business for years, worked with him, pretty handy. So I understand that, and I like that world. So I'm interested in going down that path. The biggest challenge is, I have a very demanding W-2 that I have to work, 50, 60 hours a week at. I have to give them my whole attention, which I do. So it's working around that schedule in the evenings and on the weekends. Many times if we're not at one of our kids' soccer games, you'll find us driving around all over New Hampshire, going on visits and, things like that. Right. And so you sacrifice. We try to take time for ourselves as much as we can, and don't feel guilty about that because you need a break. But we also are like, you know what, we got to visit. We're going to go Saturday morning. We're going to go Sunday morning. We're going to go, whatever. So yeah, I think it's just to continue to try to grow, build our portfolio, build, the amount of deals we do. At some point, I would love to be able to say we have successfully closed over 100 off-market transactions. We're now 10, so we got a long way to go.
You'll
But
get there. You'll get there.
but you gotta get 10 before you get 50, before you get 100. So we're on our way. But I always love when I hear you say over 400 or 400. I think you're saying 450 now, maybe more. I know you guys have been cranking it away, which is inspiring in itself. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. And now you have a true plan B, right? So you guys wanted one before, but you have one now. You're back working the W-2, but you have a plan B that's actually has taken shape and has momentum. And look at what you guys have accomplished in your first year. You got a flip under contract, a burr under contract. You've done a bunch of wholesale deals, and you have built the foundation of something great here, right? Imagine what it's going to be like 2 or 3 years from now, right? You guys probably will be looking at 100, which is amazing. So awesome. All right, 2 more questions. So if anybody was you guys a year ago, not knowing anything about real estate, just wanting to be interested in it, what would you give somebody for advice now, knowing what you guys know?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you got to. I know this is going to sound like I'm plugging you, but it's true. It's coaching. You got to get coaching. I mean, you accelerate your knowledge so much faster working with someone, working with you and Dan. Spending some time with Eddie on your team. I mean, your team is amazing, and just learning from everyone. Even in your back office stuff, Ashley and Carla, just working with everybody and understanding all the pieces of it really helps you understand it. It lets you know what you don't know, right? We don't know what we don't know when we go into it. And so a lot of times, if you remember when I first talked to you about this business, probably 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we were sitting at one of our son's basketball games, if you remember, and I started asking you, and I didn't even know what to ask you. Like, I didn't know what questions to ask you, right? I felt like an idiot because I was like, well, what are you doing? And then when you started telling me, I'm like, okay, what do I ask next? I don't even know how do you start? So I think when you start going through coaching, in the beginning, it's really, here's where you focus, and you start having real life examples that you work through. And once you start doing those, it becomes more rote. It's much easier to then go to the next step and understand what parts you actually don't know and where you need more knowledge. So to me, that's the biggest thing. If you don't do that, you're just going to fumble around for a long time. And that first year will be a lot harder. I think you say it a lot as well in your podcast. You may get a deal or two that'll fall into your lap, but it doesn't mean that you're actually well on your way. Because some of that is just timing more than and luck more than actual skills, and you need to have the skills.
Yeah, and I agree with John. I think definitely coaching is the way to go. For me, it was a little more of funneling our energy into the priorities that we needed to be thinking about at the time, because there's so much information. There's so many podcasts. There's so many books. There's so much information about real estate. And you could be learning and reading and listening to podcasts for 20 years and never really know where to start or how to start. And I think for me, the coaching really just funneled all that information to, this is where you need to focus your time and energy right now. This is where you need to focus your time and energy next, and it kind of helped us get going from that standpoint.
I agree with you guys wholeheartedly. All right, last question. So we call it REI Freedom for a reason. And you guys have heard it on the other podcast episodes. So now that you guys have been doing this for a while, what does REI Freedom mean to you both?
Yeah, it's definitely time. It's taking back your time, being able to control your own destiny. Like we said before, never feeling that helpless feeling again. It's really being able to do what you love, truly do what you love, spend time together as a family, be able to travel, or really just decide any time what you want to do with your life and go. And to me, that's, I think you would agree, that's for us what's the most important thing. Like I said, I never, ever want to feel the way I felt last year. Neither one of us. And so, to me, that's freedom in itself right there.
Yeah, I agree. And I just from working in an industry where that takes me away from my family and takes me away from my husband when I work, I am looking forward to being able to spend my time with the people that I want to spend my time with, and the way that we want to spend our future.
Oh, I love that, guys, and I appreciate you guys coming on today's podcast. Great episode. So, John, Lisa, thank you so much for being on this episode today. We're going to wrap it up now. For our listeners, I mean, what more of an aspiring story do you need, and what more of a motivation do you need to get your ass in gear and to start your real estate journey today, rather than waiting until you put yourself in a position where you're forced to start sooner before you have to. John and Lisa overcame a lot, and just goes to show you that no matter how challenging life can be, you can still persevere. And like we always say, those who survive in this business will thrive. And these guys are already well on the way to thriving, and I can't wait to see what they do down the road. And I get to watch firsthand, which is awesome. And we get to be business partners and everything else and different things. So super cool. So if you guys want to learn more about what it's like to be in REI Freedom Coaching, all you have to do is go to reifreedom.com/apply. You can book a 20-30 minute call with yours truly to see if you're a fit for our program, if we are a fit for you. Otherwise, I hope you will join our Off-Market Freedom Fighters Facebook group, and you will listen next week. We appreciate your support. Till then, see you guys next week.